Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Seenu. It's been a little while since the last episode, but we're back, and just wanted to basically take a few moments of this episode to show you some work I've been doing off camera. I've been doing quite a bit of an expansion. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I started with that expansion during a live stream. So if you want to go see that first, I'm going to include the link in the description. But before I actually start with things, I just want to make a few quick comments about some of the videos that I've been posting lately, because I've been spamming my channel with GeoGuessr videos. Long story short, B Schoolhausen and I got together one Saturday afternoon, recorded like 5 videos in like an hour or two, and we decided that instead of just releasing them, throughout a month and stretching that for forever, we figured it would be best to just post them all at once. So that GeoGuessr craziness should be not over, but definitely wind down. I'm still going to be playing GeoGuessr solo, maybe release one video a week or something like that. Definitely not going to spam my entire channel with it. So in case you were worried about that, that's what's going to happen. And also, last weekend I had the pleasure to travel to London again and attended a Planet Coaster event hosted by Frontier. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I actually met a lot of YouTubers you probably also know, like Vlogs. I met them in person for the first time, by the way. Vlogs, Lady Designer, Silverette, Rudy Renkamel, Conflict Nerd, Dylan, James Turner from Fabliki. They're all pretty awesome guys, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I put together a vlog type video. It's very short, it's like 4 minutes, so in case you want to see them, if you wonder what they look like in real life, and if you wonder what I look in real life, you should go check out that video and like read the description carefully of that video too, because there's like even more content linked out of that video. So that's all for the announcements. It's been 2.5 minutes of this rambling intro. Let's get into what we're working on here. So quite a few things, actually. Let me start by talking about the airport. So obviously, we're not even close to being done with the airport. In fact, in this episode, I still don't know what I'm going to be working on. You probably already know because of the thumbnail and the title, but at the time of this recording, I have no clue what future Strictoaster is going to do here. So let me tell you this. The airport that during the live stream I said that it wasn't working. The reason why it wasn't working is because the no problems mod that everyone was recommending was hiding all of the problems that the airport had, specifically lack of power. So I got all that fixed. In fact, I ended up disabling most of the no problems alerts anyway. So now, if I show you here, we have a ton of problems that were completely hidden before. But we'll get to that later on. The next big thing I did was basically but working on this island to about 85% of completion. This is what I started doing in the live stream. I got a few streets here and there, but then I went off camera, spent pretty much a whole weekend on this, and just copied and pasted and detailed all of these roads. As you can see here, these are pretty detailed. They're not as detailed as other areas, but just looking at it from this angle, you can see how much is going on in here. And I'm pretty happy with this, how this came out. In fact, looking at it from above, it looks pretty realistic. All of these big warehouses that you see here and big buildings are just industry that's scattered. We have quite a bit of demand for industry, as you can see here, and we're still not covering it. So one thing I started trying is, things like this. This tiny warehouse is a vanilla warehouse, but as you can see, I cloned that 3 times to create one larger warehouse. I've been doing that pretty much everywhere. And over here we have a hospital and 2 universities put together. The reason why I added those is, well, first because they do match the architecture style, and also because we had some offices, especially the main terminals from the airport are our office buildings that obviously didn't have any workers because there were no people that were educated enough to go there. We have a ton of parking issues here, but it's kind of cool to see how, the cluster here of people just parking on the street. This whole area, as you can see, is very undetailed. In fact, all of the gaps that you see here, pretty much around this island are, obviously future projects that I'm going to be working on. So I decided to sort of leave those empty. and figure out later what I'm going to do with them. Probably going to add some parking lots in here. I don't know if that will look nice or not, but I kind of like the idea of having all these cars kind of like cluster around these buildings, just right there on the street. I don't know. In any case, we have, like I said, scattered industry and commercial areas pretty much throughout this entire island. Obviously, the main road is paved, the side roads are not. And for example, this gap here is going to be turned into another dock that will serve the population of this island. And here's more of that technique where I cloned the building a couple times. I think these are 6 buildings, and I ended up, creating a road in between so that, because obviously I would get the no road connection if I didn't. So now you can see cars, kind of like make a turn and actually enter through this garage, which is kind of awesome. You can see this little, the curve kind of enters right in between those two extensions of the building. I don't know. That was kind of nice. Again, there's a lot of work that needs to be done here. We have some slums in here as well. Pretty simple, nothing too crazy. But I'm pretty happy with how this came out. Obviously, this island is going to have a similar treatment. I'm probably going to go off camera at some point in the near future. I just copy and paste a whole bunch of buildings. I've been using that technique a lot. Many of the blocks, as you can see, are pretty standard size. And this is actually how they look like in real life, by the way. It's mostly a grid. And so is this one. So I'm just going to try to do that and save myself a ton of time. Just want to, for the most part, these islands are going to be background to nicer projects. So we don't need to go in specific detail about pretty much every single block. And one thing I did too is taking you to the other side of the island. This whole area used to be just a grid of roads and nothing else. So I ended up using the same technique, extended all these roads, converted them to dirt roads, adding the decals, adding the fences, adding the houses, and scatter around some warehouses so that we can have some jobs available for all these people. We have this hospital here that's actually U-shaped, but I cloned it, I copied it, and rotated it, and now we have a nice little courtyard in the middle. It looks quite nice. But I think that's pretty much it. We're definitely going to be expanding these type of neighborhoods. Like I said, over on this island, and also over on this island. This is going to be a huge project over there. That's pretty much the state of Seenu as we speak right now. Thankfully, planes are landing. They're not landing that often, which is kind of accurate actually, because this is not a high traffic airport anyways. But it's nice to see planes land every once in a while. It is kind of buggy. I've noticed some planes landing like in the middle, like sinking into the ground and then like taxiing properly. Some do land the way they're meant to land. So, it's a bit of a hit or miss with airports. There's really not that much that can be done. So, unfortunately, I can't give you any tips on that. The airport, again, like I said many episodes ago, is very, very much not finished. We still have to do the control tower that will take place somewhere around here. There's even going to be a cemetery in this area, and I'm not sure exactly where. And obviously, there's going to be some docks just connected to the airport. In fact, I'm probably going to be doing a bit of a ferry line that connects the airport to the rest of the islands so that maybe we can get some more usage out of the airport. But that's all for this intro segment. So let me pass it on to my future self and see what he's up to. All right, well, thank you, past self. So, as you can see, we're starting off by working on the roundabout that sort of connects the two islands. Actually, the bridge that sort of connects the two islands. Let me adjust my audio levels there. There we go, perfect. I was going deaf on one of my ears. In any case, this is... I realize now that the thumbnail of the video and the title, as I mentioned a second ago, it doesn't really explain what I'm going to be doing in this episode. So now that I know what I'm going to be working on, let me tell you that we're mostly going to be focusing on the details around the newly planned area just adjacent to the bridge. In fact, we're going to be detailing 100% of the side of the island. There's actually quite a bit of progress being made on this episode. I'm quite happy. We're really, really close to tackling this whole island for good. in terms of how detailed I want it to look like. So that's kind of exciting. In fact, I might do the detailing in a live stream, maybe. I don't know. We'll think about that in the future. But what I'm starting off over there is just working on those inner streets. I didn't necessarily want all of them to be dirt roads, so I decided to keep some of the concrete roads in there and use and basically copy and paste the styling that we've been applying to other roads of a similar kind across the island. It's really easy once you sort of set a design that you like to just simply copy and paste the decoration for it. And the reason why I wanted to keep these roads paved and not be dirt roads is because, you know, we have the big hospital and we have this small clinic here that actually has a ton of usage. You know, it's kind of surprising given how big the hospital next to it. But I think the most of the usage is just the parking lot. There's so many cars parked around the areas of this, mostly university. I think it's what's drawing the most audience to this part of the city. So what I ended up doing is, I started first by working on a parking lot that it's somewhat, you know, it came out a little bit, it was only for aesthetic purposes. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. But then I realized that all the cars that are parked on the side of the roads that I show you during the intro part of this video, they got a little bit out of hand. So I decided to, you'll see in a minute, I decided to overlay some real parking lots. So this whole area ended up becoming functional, which is kind of nice. But before I get into any of those details, and as usual, I'm getting ahead of myself, I just wanted to talk about these cement sidewalks. I think they are by I'm 100% sure they are by King Elena, but I've been using them a lot lately because you can create some really cool things. So if any other asset creators are watching this video, please make more of these, like more variants of these types of tiny curves and sidewalks, because they're so flexible. You can do anything you want with them, and it just opens up the opportunities to do all sorts of things. And here, for example, I just surrounded the whole building with these sidewalks. In fact, I left some gaps in there for like trees. That little planter over there. I didn't have to put any curves or anything like that to make that happen. I just like rearranged the sidewalks in a way that made sense, and it just came out great. I really enjoyed using those. So please, more of these if you're watching. Thank you. And as you can see here, I'm just filling this with cars. However, in a minute, I'm just gonna get rid of most of them and replace them with real parking lots, which is kind of insane the way it works, because when you move them around, it starts collecting all the cars that are parked, just rearranges all the car parks, which is definitely a sight to see. However, before we get into that, I'm adding some bikes, because I feel like in the last couple of builds I've been doing, specifically around the airport, I haven't done any bike parking or motorcycle parking, which is it's wrong. I should have done that a lot more, and in fact I should probably go back to the airport and add a few of those as well. So I'll probably do that off camera. I keep forgetting it because I keep trying to remember to do it, but I never do. So I should probably write it down. Talking about things that are written down, I have some notes here with me because, in between the last episode and this one, something kind of awesome happened. In case you weren't aware, and if you are indeed a player of Cities Skylines, this is going to be very interesting to you. If you're just watching this for the eye candy factor, you can probably ignore this comment, but Propline Tool, the legendary mod, was updated. I just couldn't believe it when I saw it. There's some new options into it. First, my favorite option, my favorite feature, I guess, is the fact that now you can set Prop Anarchy to be default. So when the game starts, you don't have to like navigate through the menus to set it up. It's really convenient, because I basically never play or never use Prop Anarchy. Plop line tool. That's what I'm trying to say. Without the anarchy factor. So definitely recommend that. There's a video that the author put together. Obviously, my tutorial I did a couple months ago, it's kind of outdated now. It's not 100% outdated, but it's, there's some hacks that I showcase there that are now just sort of built into the mod. So there's some new tools about on how to do circles and projections of props, and fencing is like way easier now too. So I definitely recommend you check that out. I'm gonna include the link in the description so you can see this demo video where the author showcases all the new features. Now, another thing that I'm working on here, by the way, is I just put down that tower that we also featured several episodes ago on a different island. And I think I mentioned this at the time, but there appears to be some sort of a network, like microwave radio network in between the islands of the atoll. In fact, I think not only these towers connect between the different islands surrounding the specific atoll, but they also connect to nearby islands that are farther away. So I thought about I have an asset for like a cell phone tower that I wanted to put down, but I think this big red antenna kind of serves both purposes. In fact, Natural Disasters has a big communications tower that looks really great. It has like cables that hold it in place together and things like that. So I may add a few of those as well. But before I go into that tangent, I want to mention what I'm doing here. As you can see, I'm adding the functional parking lots, and I'm kind of overlaying them with the decals, which are some really good decals, by the way, the red bricks with the lines. However, they didn't quite match. Like the gap wasn't, perfectly, equidistant. So I kind of eyeballed it as much as I could. And obviously when the cars are actually parked there, you really can't see them anyways. So, just the whole point was to sort of remove the amount of cars that were just right there on the road. In fact, every time I move anything, you can see how all the parking lots kind of rearrange it, which is what I was mentioning a second ago. I'm still not quite sure what that that building that we're just detailing with the parking lot, what that would be, because technically it's a combination of a hospital and a university. But this is something that I've recently been doing quite a bit, specifically around the airport. And maybe this is a tip that might be handy for you too, if you can't find, the perfect building. So let's say you need, I don't know, a hospital, right? In your city, and you just can't find a proper hospital. What you should do is just put down, a couple of small clinics, all, on one on top of the other, if you really want to make it functional. And then just grab a generic building and just add, one prop that sets it apart, that actually tells the world that this is indeed a clinic. So for example, at the airport, I have, for the main terminals, I have office buildings. And what I end up doing is just adding a prop that says Terminal 1. So suddenly, those buildings that are, functioning as offices become airport terminals, at least visually. So, this is a trick that I've been using quite a bit for many, many things across Seenu and even other projects. So definitely recommend, you sometimes you just can't find the perfect asset. So this might be a good trick, to get what you want. Now, let me change subjects here for a second. I want to talk about the airport a bit more. I'm sure many of you were wondering why I certainly stopped working on it. There's really nothing about it. I really want to finish it, but lately I've been having this urge to sort of make a lot of progress. And, after that live stream where we started, doing the expansion on this very island we're working on right now, it felt like I could just spend some time off camera and, tackling the low-hanging fruit, which is, copying and pasting the same neighborhood over and over again. Because if I don't do that off camera, we'll never get this project done. Doing that for actual episodes of Seenu really, really does take much longer. When I do all the work off camera, I just put down, pick up a couple good audiobooks and podcasts and just do a ton of busy work for the most part. So lately I've been having this urge to make a lot of progress, and this low-hanging fruit, like I was saying a second ago, seems like a better or more enjoyable option, at least for me right now. So I definitely want to tackle the airport. I'm not going to be working on 5,000 more episodes where I'm not touching the airport at all. I really want to. That island is also pretty much close to being done. However, the couple projects that are still missing from that area are a little bit ambitious. One of them, in case you were wondering, is the oil fueling station. There's a bit of a refinery there. and then there's the cemetery and the control tower and the area surrounding it. And that, I mean, they're like tiny projects that will take, many hours. So similar amounts of hours I'm putting on all of this. However, I'm covering a lot more ground. So inside of me, that feels a lot more fulfilling, and that's why I'm tackling this. But trust me, well, we're gonna get back to the airport soon. We're gonna finish that off, and we're gonna continue doing some cool things, especially in this island too. There's gonna be some new dogs and things that I'm gonna try to make them a bit more unique, so that we don't repeat the same style over and over again. That compared to the ones we did in previous episodes. However, the second half of this time lapse, by the way, we're going to be getting closer to the airport again. There's a lot of details that I'm going to be adding to sort of the, some of the resorts that I've been working on in past episodes. But I just wanted to make that, that note there, because I'm sure many of you are wondering when I'm going to finish the airport, because I've seen so many comments saying, oh, where's the control tower? Where's this? Where's that? You need more hangars. Yeah, all that is coming. In fact, there's been some comments about a seaplane situation type thing. I'm trying to figure that out. So that's definitely something that I'm planning on doing. If all goes well, we'll get it done. And I'm sure, things will. But finally, before we move on from this island, what I'm doing here, by the way, is adding a few more scatter industries, because we still, as you can see from the bottom toolbar, we still have quite a bit of demand for industry. And the crazy thing is that there's a ton of shops telling me that they don't have enough shoppers, which is like, dude, I mean, we have so much commercial demand, and your tiny shop is surrounded by a whole neighborhood. So why on earth don't you have shoppers is beyond me. But yeah, that's the thing. I'm kind of chasing the Cities Skylines sort of challenge, or demand meters. It's kind of impossible. I did my best. I still try to keep things balanced, mostly so that I can get first of all, to avoid buildings becoming abandoned, which is still a thing. I don't know why that still happens, but it's so annoying. I really don't like that. I think I have like 20 mods that supposedly get rid of that, but every once in a while I still see some buildings that became abandoned. I don't know. It's so crazy. But the point is, I'm still kind of trying to chase the demand and trying to keep all the RCI meters to a decent level, but it's getting harder and harder. I have some random deaths all the time, but even though I have crematoriums that have like 20,000 horses at their disposal, however, they never use more than 5 or 6. So I mean, really, and these are like houses that have dead people waiting just like a block away from the crematorium. So I really don't know what's going on with that. Unfortunately, if I want the city to be functional, I need to tackle that no matter what. I wish that you could just turn on sandbox for everything, like really make it sandbox and just get rid of all that. But fortunately, that's not an option for me, so I have to sort of chase all these issues manually. And so far, I've been doing okay. I'm not complaining at 100%. But it would have been much easier not to have to worry about all those things. Now, what I'm doing here, by the way, is I love how this roundabout turned out. I've been adding quite a bit of details, like really spent some time adding, the proper road markings. I added some stop signs, some yield signs, some roundabout signs, and obviously the actual area and the real, in the real life map doesn't quite look like this, because the way the one in real life works is a little bit tricky to do in Cities Skylines. So I decided to make a nice little roundabout, make it a little bit more eye candy. And I mentioned this before. I'm kind of using the real life atoll as inspiration, but not necessarily as like a perfect thing that I need to copy to make it like super precise. So that's sort of the state of things in here. Some of those yield signs were way too big for the I don't know why some of these lanes are so much narrower than the others. I think they're obviously different road types, but To the extent of my ability, I tried to make it look as realistic as possible. I added some roadwear decals there to sort of mark where the traffic tends to flow, and obviously some guardrails on the side so the cars just don't drive and plummet into the water. Make it really safe, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And overall, I think this came out great. By the way, what I'm doing here is kind of interesting because this is an asset that I specifically requested. You've seen this asset before, but now if you read the label of that asset, it says non-confirming, which is which basically means that you can raise it up and down. Whereas before, all these assets by King Leno, they were just like contouring to the ground. They would just match the shape of the terrain, which is not something that I particularly wanted, at least not in this case. And over there, I ended up making some, yield signs of my own, but I couldn't quite put them in all places. I think the elevation, it's a little bit wonky. This whole interchange here, not interchange, but like that whole intersection there is kind of hacky. I'm like sinking like chunks of road everywhere. It's definitely something that wasn't really meant for that, so I couldn't quite get all the decals that I wanted. But going back to the King Leno assets, now these curves can be raised up and down, so that meant that I can put them across this whole bridge, which is basically floating in the water at that point. And it came out great. You're going to see it in the cinematics in just a few minutes. Finally, this is actually one of my favorite parts of this whole episode, and this is probably the simplest thing I did so far in this episode, which is a little stone dock that kind of extends from that original road. And I'm going to be adding some plumpable asphalt there to continue this design of streets with those creamy looking cement decals, also by King Leno, by the way. I think this whole area is mostly King Leno sponsored at this point. I just use a combination of assets just to make it look really, really nice. I didn't want, any guardrails or of any kind, or just railings or fences of any kind on the sides. Wanted to keep it pretty simple. Obviously not around the stairs, but definitely surrounding the whole area, because you're supposed to just get on boats from this dock. It's not really meant for like tourists or anything like that, unlike this one that which has some fences. But as we approach the end of the time lapse, as I mentioned several episodes ago, I decided to spend the last few minutes here to add some details to this hotel/resort that's just sitting right next to the water and on the airport island. I pretty much left this undetailed several episodes ago. I'm not going very, very crazy here, by the way. I'm just adding a few trees here and there, some bushes. Definitely want to keep the areas immediately next to the roads a bit more detail than the areas in between. Having large trees pretty much covers a lot of ground in general. It just covers everything, so there's really no point in detailing under those if you're never going to see them. I've been that has been my philosophy for the last couple episodes now, because I was spending so much time just detailing the under part of trees. But there's really no point in doing that. It just makes my game slower, and also just takes a lot more work. Now, a second ago, I don't know if you noticed, but I had a whole cluster of plants and trees just sitting on the water itself. There, you're going to see it in greater detail in the cinematics, but some segments of this island facing or just sitting right by the water will have trees that will be literally in the water. Basically mangroves to be more specific. So there's going to be a few of those. In fact, you can kind of see them there. Well, the camera is going way too fast, so you did see them. There you go. You can see them now a little bit. Oh, by the way, final touch, just adding the sea foam there on the shoreline. That really makes a huge difference when you're detailing a beach side, for example. I might come back and add, a few benches and things like that. I really didn't have time to put those in. In fact, it's something that I'm thinking about right now. But this is pretty much it for this episode. It's been a really enjoyable one for me. If you enjoyed it as well, please consider giving this video a like. That's very much appreciated. And also, if you're new to the channel and haven't already, I would like to encourage you to go subscribe. That way you're notified immediately after one of my videos comes out. But that's pretty much it for this one. Please enjoy the rest of the cinematics. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.